Oh, the snot has caked against my pants. It has turned into crystal. There's a bluebird sitting on a branch. I guess I'll take my pistol. I've got it in my hand, because he's on my land. And so the story ended. You know it oh so well. Oh shit, you need, I'll tell you. The end. Yes, I see you sitting on the couch. I recognize your artillery. I have seen you many times before. Once when I was in India, and I was on my land. Why can't you understand? And so the story ended. You know it oh so well. What should you need, I'll tell you. The time, served it well. You made my soul a sail. Write the rules in the sky, then ask your leaders why. Oh, the snot has caked against my pants. It has turned into crystal. There's a bluebird sitting on a branch. I guess I'll take my pistol. I've got it in my hand, because he's on my land. And so the story ended. You know it oh so well. What should you need, I'll tell you. The end. Served my time, served it well. You made my soul a sail.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the EdgeStream. It's good to be back. Another Wednesday night. A lot going on, obviously. We have the inauguration of Trump that just happened. A lot of white pills, a lot of black pills, a lot of confusion on whether you should see a white pill or a black pill. So we'll be going through a lot of that tonight. Big executive orders coming down the pipeline, or they're going to get clogged up halfway through the stream. So we'll be looking into that. We're live right now on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, and Entropy. So you guys could check the stream out on any of those platforms. You could donate on Rumble if you want to steer the conversation in any way, or just leave a tip. And you could also do that on Entropy. So anything is appreciated. I'm also doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes, so it'll help out with things like that, especially within nationalism in Canada. So yeah, I'm excited to get into all this stuff today. I see some people in the chat, they're saying, my heart goes out to all of you. Now, at first when I read that, I thought you were saying something because the first person I saw say it was American Anonymous. So I was thinking, oh, he knows that we're from Canada here. So he knows that we're going to get screwed with the tariffs. So, oh, that's nice. But then I realized that it was even nicer because it was referring to Emperor Elon doing his new heart salute, or whatever you want to call it, you know? And because of Lord Emperor Dictator Elon, we are now officially taking it back. So that is really exciting. I have a lot of thoughts on that. Just for the record, I do think that it was an accident on his half. When I just saw the 4-second video, obviously it looks amazing. But in the context of everything he said around it, I'm like, yeah, that is just an autist getting real excited and spurting out a little bit and putting his heart to his chest and trying to throw it out there. However, Elon does have a little bit of a troll in him, and I don't think that he's our guy overall, but I do think that he has the penchant within him to do that kind of trolling, to put that out there, and then have the plausible deniability, knowing that they're going to bite on it in order to gaslight the media and the mainstream and own the libs once again. So whatever reason he did it, it's still pretty hilarious. See a lot of people in chat. Ricky Cito throwing some, what do you call that? The heart salute? I don't know. We need to make it a bit more palatable for the normies before they figure out what it really is, and then introduce them to that and its rich history, because it does have a rich history long before Badman in the 1940s ever did it. People in Canada and across America and the Western world were doing it well before that. Up until then. And now, apparently, it's illegal to raise your arm at the wrong angle. Just ask the guys in Australia, literally getting thrown in jail from new laws being passed 80 years after 1940s Badman has died. They're getting thrown in jail. So it goes to show you where the mind of the elites are at, and of the powers who ought not to be, that want to put people in jail for that, for criticizing their precious moment in history. So I'm seeing Nick Larche, Good Times, Al Stern doings, a lot of slashes, a lot of heart salutes. Liquid Zoo here to help spread the light. Rick Freedom, Druidus, Warren G. Warren G asking, why can't you leave a tip on YouTube? Just curious. Because I'm not monetized on this channel. I'm pretty sure I could be, but then it would leave it open to more scrutiny on, whether anything on this YouTube channel is above board in the first place. So where you can do that is on Entropy. That is the best spot to do it. And also, YouTube would be getting a cut of like 30-40%, and they could withhold it at any time, and they wouldn't pay you out until I think you get at least $100. So I'm just going to pin that to the top of the chat here. The Bellamy salute. Is that another name for it? Roman salute? I need to go back and look at the history of this because I'm not even I'm not even sure. Liquid Zoo says it will forever be a Roman to me. Plaid Dad says Bellamy salute. I've heard that one, but not very often. I've much more often heard Roman salute. And of course the Sieg Heil. The American Pledge of Allegiance used to have a similar salute pre-World War II. Yeah, I can imagine they did. I've seen a picture of kids doing it to a red ensign in Canada, like our old flag for those who don't know, back before 1965, and they were throwing a Bellamy or a Roman or Sieg Heil salute, whatever you want to call it, and apparently that was prevalent in Canada too. See a lot of people over on Rumble too. Chucky's Extremist Circus, Koala Mom, Drawgrass, Peepoo. Good to see everyone over there. Al Stern over on Entropy. Yeah, so let's get right into it. We have, of course, the Trump inauguration, like I mentioned before. There was some cringeworthy performances, or at least a lot of weird people coming around on the Trump issue, and we'll discuss whether that's a good thing or a bad thing or somewhere in between. We have the pardons that Trump did, I think is a great thing. Some people think that maybe he should have let them rot in prison because then that would radicalize them even further, and I guess that's an accelerationist argument. I don't really agree with that. I'm glad to see them out, and hopefully he stays true to that. I'm not sure if they've all been released, but we'll be looking into that. And the rest of the executive orders. So there's a lot of big talk going on there, but can he actually pull it off? And will he actually pull it off? Or is he just talking out of his ass, giving false promises? We'll have to see. And then we're going to get into some stuff from across the pond. So over in the UK, Mark Collett and his nationalist group in Britain, Patriotic Alternative, they've been the subject of some new hit pieces, including undercover journalists, this time from the BBC, once again going undercover and trying to get a huge gotcha moment on them, but it's just really not working, and they're really just coming across as desperate. So we'll look into that, how pathetic their attempt was, and maybe get some insight on what we can do when dealing with similar things over here. So first of all, like with this new Trump regime, I do think it is generally positive for Americans. Once again, it's like the same kind of argument we might have for Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives here in Canada. Things will get marginally better or somewhat better on paper, and you have a guy who's saying what at least we think is closer to the right thing, but we know that comes with a poison pill. One that means that a large percentage of the population, who has more common sense than obviously some crazy leftists or invaders who are benefiting off of the Liberal Party's policy. But people who are more like our kin, our folk, are going to be lulled into a sleep because they think that Daddy Pierre has come and saved them. And likewise, I think that might be happening with the states too. Also, we have to think about this tariff war that is going to happen. Trump, I guess he's been, as of the last day or two, like fully announced that he is going to have tariffs against Canada 25% by February 1st. So I know there were talks of it before. Trump said that he would put tariffs on, I believe it was Canada's oil or gas, 25% if we didn't get our immigration on our side of the border under control. And he was pressuring Justin. Apparently he made a fool of him on the world stage. He recently had, who was it, Kevin O'Leary and the Premier of Alberta, Danielle Smith, over there. And he told them basically there's going to be tariffs. So I guess now it's going to come to fruition. So it looks like hard times are ahead of us as Canadians, or at least harder times. But hopefully that will wake more of us up, and we could also see how ineffective our politicians are. Like, for example, the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, threatening a tariff war back at the States. Quite laughable. Quite laughable that he's trying to drum up some patriotic nationalist sentiment, but this time against people who would be like one of our only trading partners that is beneficial for us at this point, and getting all rattling the saber against them, except for protecting the demographic, instead of protecting the demographics of our own country, which has absolutely tanked and slipped away within the last 5 or so years, and decades before that, obviously. But, I'm not one of the people who is benefiting greatly off of the prosperity that has been going on here. In fact, I see what's going on, and I've seen it for the last 10 years or so, and we can build community out of that. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world for us. I think the people who were doing good, who are going to be doing worse now, are the people who are in government jobs, who are already getting paid way too much to do nothing, and to take all the jabs, to do everything that they're told. But we're going to have to create our parallel societies out of this, and create worth out of actual labor and exchanging services with each other, and keeping it within our community. Or if you're gonna do business without with the rest of Canada, that you're bringing it back into the community and you're contributing to it. But anyways, that's I guess the Canada context for this whole election that I have. It's gonna be mostly focused on the actual Trump administration at this point. I see somebody sent me a Wikipedia on the Bellamy salute. So, okay. Later tonight, I'll educate myself on the rich history of the Bellamy salute. Yeah, Rodden was saying PP couldn't even answer if he would do the two genders thing. Yeah, he dances a bit. So I saw that video. It was an epic, Pierre Poilievre eats the apple in front of the journalist by casually answering his questions, making him look stupid. So I guess one of the executive orders is that they're officially stating that there's only two genders in the United States. I guess a groundbreaking declaration at this point, but probably a step in the right direction. You love to see it. But he basically just tries to get the reporter to say, oh, what are the other genders? Because he knows how stupid it will sound. I think it was a pretty good moment for Pierre, to be honest. But likewise, this guy voted to make it illegal to stop your kids from being transed. So, he's only playing into that anti-woke sentiment and not really going in. Like, why doesn't he say definitively what the two genders are and that the other ones aren't real genders? But it was mildly amusing to watch. American Anonymous says, at the same time, didn't they have the Village people at the inauguration or something? Maybe it was a Turning Point event. I think it was both. Okay, so we're going to get into that now. Elon Musk is citing a vibe shift is going on. And that's largely because Donald Trump has become normalized. Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing or somewhere in between, we'll find out. But I guess his proof is that Snoop Dogg... Hold on, can you see that? Yeah, okay, yeah, you can see that. Yeah, Snoop Dogg back in 2017, like every other rapper, was making music videos where he was doing mock executions of Trump, I think there was like 5 other rappers at least that were very popular that did that. So not big on originality, and was probably getting a lot of money from people who were donors to the Democrat Party and were vehemently anti-Trump. So very safe thing to do. So he wants to kill Trump. Let's hear him.
For Donald Trump, huh? Which one of you jigaboo ass niggas gonna be the first one to do it? I'm waiting. I'm gonna roast the fuck out one of you Uncle Tom ass niggas for doing it. Which one of you niggas gonna do it first?
Oh, so which one of you niggas is going to dance like a monkey? Dance like a monkey for Trump. And literally no one did it. Literally no rappers supported Trump. And if they had like no big name to them. But here's this jigaboo ass nigga dancing like a dancing like a monkey for Daddy Trump.
Osby's the one that performs for himself.
Yeah, that's what, boy. That's what I thought, boy. Crack the whip. So there you go. We know these guys will do anything for money. It goes to show that they don't care about the issues too. Like, he's calling him a racist and many other things. So are all the other rappers that now have come around on him. They don't care. So in that context, I don't necessarily think that, racism was the issue, or whether he said Mexicans were rapists. The ones that were actually raping people that came over the border, that is. But you do have to think, though, what has Trump said that has been really based off the wall, kind of remark that used to freak people out back in like 2016, 2017? Like the rapist comment. I think they're eating the dogs and they're eating the cats was the last based one during the debates about the Haitians. And likewise, I don't think he really did anything about that either. Or I don't know what he's going to be doing about that, if he is doing anything. But yeah, so it does seem like there's some kind of vibe shift, but I'm not as optimistic about it. I don't think this is really cool in any way. I don't know why you'd want a criminal pornographer who has normalized black people shooting each other. I don't know why you'd want that on your side. But I guess it's a popularity contest. Even cringier is, last week I played a Tom MacDonald song. It was called Screw the Woke, a parody of Let It Snow, the classic Christmas song. But I said Tom MacDonald is canceled. We are never listening to him again. You should never. White Boy was an okay song because he screamed the words white boy over and over again, which I could get down with. But once again, he has gone over the line, and it's just such, I think Ferry said it, this new MAGA is total goy slop. And now he has a song with Roseanne Barr, of all people. And I guess it's supposed to be funny because celebrity, rap not good, but it funny, right? And she makes one line about they're trying to turn Becky into Dan. I guess a reference to the show she was in 25 years ago. So once again, very relevant. And that's just brilliant. We trolled the left so hard. I did not know who this appeals to, so I went and I looked into the comments of people who enjoyed this, and I just don't know. I just can't relate with these people. If this is winning, then I don't know. Are you winning, son? And of course, as the guy in the chat mentioned, the Village People dance. So yeah, Trump got on stage and he did his stupid dance that, the meme is dead at this point. It's not funny anymore. MAGA really knows how to run something into the ground. They really know how to run a meme into the ground. And when they go off the reservation and get their own memes when they're not, taken from 4chan and then bastardized and made to mean something that they weren't, then it's just gay like this. Literal song about homosexuals cruising for young boys at the YMCA. Donald Trump does the funny dance. And whatever the hell that thing is on the right. Are you enjoying the gay sex? Are you winning, son? No. I don't get why you didn't get someone like Eric Clapton to play. I don't know if they asked him, but Eric Clapton, Van Morrison, good example of absolute legends in the game. Much better musically than the fucking Village People. And they stood up for like dissident politics to some extent, especially during COVID. In fact, Eric Clapton and Van Morrison, they had a pretty good like super group duo band that they made together called Slow Hand and Van. And they had some good songs like This Has Got to Stop or Where Have All the Rebels Gone? And indeed, where have they gone? They're not even playing at what's supposed to be the rebellious inauguration ball. Instead, you have the faggots from the Village People singing songs about having sex with children. Right. Now, I think a big question about all of this is, like, is Donald Trump and this whole campaign and this whole presidency, because he was about to be put in jail by all of his enemies, right? He had the presidency stolen from him in 2020, and they incarcerated like thousands of his followers. Now, why the sudden shift, right? Is he more enabled now with all this new elite support? Like, whether it's the donors, like the hundreds of millions of dollars that are going to him now. Is this because the establishment wants it to happen, or because they were forced to allow it to happen? Like, was it the people pushing the Overton window and making him accept it? Or was it because the establishment wanted it to happen, because they have their agenda in mind? Now, I would think obviously it's a mix of both, right? And the part where they were forced to allow it to happen, they're feeding us crumbs on that. And they're only agreeing with the stuff that cuts into their bottom line. Like, for example, how DEI, the diversity, equity, and inclusion, how that has fucked over how just fundamental systems in society work, right? Things aren't going to run on time. Their businesses are not going to flourish if they have to adhere to every black, fat tranny and hire them instead of competent workers. So at some point, that house of cards was bound to fall. So they're adapting to it. And at the same time, the powers that be, the people who are really on top, they don't like that this leftist mentality is getting out of control and extending to support for Palestine, and therefore anti-Zionist, and therefore to them anti-Semitic. So that is the reason why they're allowing it to happen. Also, they want to prevent a revolution, and just like the Freedom Convoy in Canada, with against the mandates and against the vaccines, like they can see the writing on the walls, and they have to pull back before it's too late and give some concessions. And then the establishment can pivot. They could redefine immigration, and after claiming that illegal immigration totally fine and is why we're so wonderful as a country, they could finally admit that it's not the greatest thing, and then they could pivot to legal immigration. But now they're straddling the line in between, are we a colorblind meritocracy that wants the best in the world, or are we also populists, as we say that we are? Are we the party of the people? Because those two things are kind of at odds with each other. If you're importing a new population, that kind of defeats the populism of the people that already live here. And obviously, you see this new oligarchical tech regime with people like Elon Musk. Seems that he is the real dictator here. Or somewhat pulling the strings, because he donated one of the largest donations in history as, I guess, the richest man in the world, $230 million in one campaign. I don't even know how that's legal, and it blew all the other donors out of the water, including Sheldon Adelson's wife, who's dead, Miriam Adelson. He was one of the biggest donors, obviously ultra-Zionist. He's been beat out by Elon. So let's see dictator Elon's epic... Sorry, I can't figure out which one to call it. Is it a heart salute, a Bellamy salute, a Roman salute, a Sieg Heil? Let's just go with Sieg Heil. So let's see the context behind it in the first place.
You know, there are elections that come and go. Some elections are, you know, important. Some are not. But this one, this one really mattered. And I just want to say thank you for making it happen. Thank you. My heart goes out to you. It is thanks to you that the future of civilization is assured.
So there you have it, his epic moment. That will live on in infamy for a long time. And yeah, you just gotta capitalize on funny culture jamming, things like that. The Rolling Stone was kvetching about it, and they were going over how all these right-wing influencers are saying hilarious and awesome things about it. So let's see who they nicked in this hit piece here. Incredible things are happening already, wrote Gab founder and Hitlerbot innovator Andrew Torba. Hitlerbot innovator. Now, I really got to check that out. That is a tech overlord that I could get behind. Andrew Torba, the founder of Gab. I'm not the biggest fan of Gab as a social media site. You know, I just don't have a good experience when I go on it generally. Find it's too much of an echo chamber, but it is a great idea, and some of his AI things that he's implemented there are pretty good. So I'll have to check out Hitlerbot. So who do they nail in this? Okay, so they have Christopher Pohlhaus, the leader of the notorious neo-Nazi group Blood Tribe, said, "I don't care if this was a mistake. I'm going to enjoy the tears over it." This guy posted emojis. This is real riveting stuff here. Great reporting from the Rolling Stone as usual. Thomas Sewell, whose Telegram avatar is a picture of himself throwing a Roman salute, posted the video of Musk calling it a Donald Trump white power moment. Now, that's probably the funniest one that they posted here. But yeah, you love to see it. They're kvetching about it. I believe Rachel Gilmore was crying about it, making hilarious TikToks, posing in front of the salute. And not to mention the hundreds of funny edits that are going on Twitter about it and other platforms. Oh, looks like the post that I was attempting to share with a sick edit has been deleted. Yeah, I guess the censorship is getting to them. You can't even post Elon's own based moments on his own platform without them getting taken down. It's interesting. Well, leftists are trying to stick it to us for all the people who are Roman deniers, who are on the center right, who are pro Musk, who are denying that he was actually throwing a Roman. The left has challenged us to own it and to do it in real life in order to have solidarity for him. So this guy says, "Be careful what you wish for, commies." Let's hear
defending Elon and what he did. I want you to do it. Do it. Post yourself on here doing it. Do it when you guys greet each other in public. Come on, have it be your thing. Own the libs, right? Prove to us that it wasn't what we thought it was. Do it. To everyone defending Elon and what he did, I want you to do it.
Already done, sweetie. Already
Do
done.
it. Post yourself on here doing it. Do it when you guys greet each other in public.
That should be a viral TikTok challenge. Like, come on. That would be fucking amazing. No, her logic is good. If it's such a normal thing, we should bring it back and we should normalize it so that it is a normal thing again. Hey, sometimes a broken clock is right twice a day. Or something along those lines, whatever that saying is. But yeah, I guess the energy is there. That's one thing that you gotta like about even these victories that maybe only... They may not be as real as we'd want them to be, but they do create some great moments like this. Here we have this kid with some big Baron energy. This is what I feel is going on in Baron Trump's head.
What are you excited about for having Donald Trump as the president?
I'm excited that he will finally give us a closed border once again.
What's your message to all the illegal immigrants?
Get the hell out of our country, you disgusting pieces of shit.
Hey, don't talk like that.
Would
He
you
even
ever be
talks
friends
like
with an
Trump,
illegal
too.
immigrant?
Never.
Never. Would you be friends with a liberal?
No.
What are you excited about for having Donald Trump as the president?
I'm excited that he will finally give us a closed border once again.
What's your message to all the illegal immigrants?
Get the hell out of our country, you disgusting pieces of shit.
Hey, don't talk like that.
Would you ever be friends with an illegal immigrant?
Never.
Never. Would you be friends with a liberal?
No.
So that kid's got some big Baron energy there. You know, this kid's parents must be really based, and he's just soaking it up. But I guess Gen Alpha is going to be something else. It seems from what I've been hearing, they could go the extreme on either way. It's like either they become a tranny or they become a straight-out Nazi or something. I guess we'll have to see this play out, you know. With all the advances that are happening in technology and whatnot and the culture war, who knows what the next generation is really going to be like. But anyways, those were some fun moments. Let's get into the actual executive orders. I kind of looked them up with a little bit more research just to find out what is actually going on, because you never know with this regime. You know, I know when Donald Trump left and he pardoned some people back in 2020, it was like a bunch of degenerate black criminal rappers, and then Jonathan Pollard, the Israeli spy who like sold out America, and then as soon as he got out, he went back to Israel, kissed the ground, and hugged Bibi Netanyahu. So, you know, Trump's executive orders and pardons have not always been great, and I wasn't really expecting him to pull through on a lot of these things here, but I guess, like I said before, there has been somewhat of a vibe shift, so at least he could declare these things, but will he actually be able to pull them off is another question. So, Keith Woods posted on day one, Trump signed executive orders to declare a national emergency at the Mexico border. Oh, okay. I feel like that is self-explanatory. I would imagine it's not hard to declare an emergency. Hopefully it gives him some more emergency powers to do things. Also, revoke Biden's H-1B policy. So that is a huge thing, obviously. There was kind of the H-1B wars that happened with people like Vivek and Kash Patel and all these other jeets that he has like orbiting around him, either in his administration or adjacent to him, giving him orders or giving him advice. These people are pro H-1B, and he's flopped either way, saying that on one hand, at one particular time, that H-1B visas were bad for the American worker and he needs to do something to change it, but then also saying how great they are and how we need the best and the brightest. But as far as I could tell, he didn't implement anything specifically yet, and it's just like an ongoing thing from his first presidency, put on hiatus in whatever Joe Biden did with it through those years, and now he's just back at it. So I don't think there's any big announcement for that. Now, he also released all the January 6ers. So many of them have been released. I saw Joe Biggs. I think he was the leader of the Oath Keepers or the Proud Boys, and he got something like 10 to 20 years, somewhere in that range. So if he's out, that's a big sign. I'm not sure that they're all out, but you definitely want to keep them to it. And there's probably also logistical issues with letting everybody up. But I'd say give them a week. And if they haven't released them all, then really keep them to it. Keep on that, because that is total bullshit. Obviously, there was feds and police who let them go in certain instances there. And they just walked around a fucking Capitol. Like, the leftists seem to do that all the time with impunity. And the people who really did do fucked up shit there, like, they've served their time. It's been long enough. The left has lied about it for far too long. They claimed that a mob of rabid Trump supporters beat down killed a police officer by beating him in the head with a fire extinguisher. And they put this all around the mainstream media for like months and months. I think even years after that, they alluded to it as if it actually happened. And it turns out it was a complete fabrication. Literally never happened. And that this guy actually just died 2 days later from completely unrelated circumstances. So, literally no one died on the Capitol from being hurt or murdered by anyone else, except for Ashley Babbitt, who was shot in the neck, I believe, by a police officer there. So, if anyone owes reparations, and if it comes to lost lives, it should be it should be the Republican or the Patriot side. Not to mention the people who commit suicide because they were overly persecuted by a vindictive and by a vindictive government. So that's a big thing. Releasing the January 6ers, I didn't think he would do that. Ending birthright citizenship. So I looked it up. Just with illegals alone. So birthright citizenship, first off, for anyone that doesn't know, is that if there's at least one. Okay, so if you're born in the basically, to keep it simple, if you're born in the States, you're automatically a U.S. citizen, which is insane, because anyone could just come here, like visiting while they're pregnant, have their child, and like that's a whole industry of like human trafficking to bring people in here. Like, that is an insane law, and it's based on a bastardization of the Constitution, I believe the 14th Amendment, which was meant in order to let the freed slaves become citizens. But somehow that got extended outward and now has been used in contexts and situations that our forefathers would have never even dreamt it would be extended towards, right? So Trump's executive order is to end this, so obviously your parents would need to be full citizens. They couldn't just be permanent residents. And it's not just for illegals. Also, H-1B visa holders and international students and anybody else who is here legally but not a citizen, they would have to go through that too. Like, they would have to go through the proper channels, and they couldn't use birthright citizenship as a way to get in. However, the caveat is that ever since this has been announced, I think 33 states have launched lawsuits against it. They won't cooperate. Basically, this is literally just not going to happen. And if this were to happen, then this would be an epic victory. This would be a true show of force. But apparently, an executive order does not even have the ability to do this. It would have to go through Congress and the Supreme Court and back and forth, and it would get shut down and probably before it even got started. It's almost as if they proposed to do something that wasn't really possible just so that they could say that they were trying, but then it doesn't work out, and it has the appearance that they're doing something. I'm not sure what they could do exactly that would be much more beneficial for birthright citizenship, because it's such a clusterfuck to undo something that has been interpreted in such a way by the Constitution for like over 100 years now. But hopefully something can be done. It's like they really got to clamp down on every other avenue of illegal and illegal immigration. But we have yet to see that. There's also an executive order to end government censorship of social media. So that's very vague, but from what I gathered from it is, like what the government did to Facebook and YouTube and all these different social media sites during COVID, they're going to make sure that they can't do that anymore, and that they'll be prosecuted in some way. So that's good, if indeed they can do that. But there's also different ways around that. So maybe they'll like ease up on some instances of, say, hate speech, but then others that criticize the powers that you can't criticize, aka Jews, those will be interpreted as illegal in some capacity and anti-Semitism, and I think that they'll figure out ways in order to allow them to censor whoever they want. Like one of those things where, as long as the government is not doing it. But yeah, you could just have one degree of separation and then pressure social media companies to do it anyways. So obviously, ending censorship on social media would be great, but I'm not very hopeful on that. And withdrawing from the WHO, that's obviously a good one. So I agree with the sentiment here that the lesser of two evils argument is valid here. Now, does that mean that we get lulled into a sleep and that everything is great now? No. It means that now we take the momentum of what we have and we run with it. And we do whatever we can to make it better from here on out. But I do think it is, like, obviously much better than a Kamala presidency. Imagine a continuation of DEI and all these different things. That would not be good. I guess you could make an accelerationist argument, considering how much she would be hated and how incompetent it would be. But I don't necessarily believe those accelerationist arguments. Obviously, I'm talking about the one with the culture war, not the crazy shit where you're blowing up buildings and whatnot. But it's always better to work with a better starting point for your activism, and I think we definitely got one here. Now, as far as people that Biden pardoned, it seems that he's just pardoning his whole family from being exempt from anything that they might have done, which is pretty funny. That's pretty unprecedented. So now people are pardoning each other for crimes that may have been committed. I don't know how that's even possible. Like, what if someone committed a murder? Does that make it so that they're pre-pardoned? And, like, what crimes does that extend to? I'm not really sure how that's a thing. Also, Fauci and others have been pre-pardoned. So maybe they're scared about, like, what is it? Make America Healthy Again? Make America Healthy Again with RFK Jr., that he's going to lock them up somehow. I know he's supposed to be involved with the Trump administration in some way. I highly doubt it. I think that they're just saying that in order to capitalize off of his celebrity, but they're not letting him anywhere near the Department of Health. But it's interesting that they pre-pardoned Fauci. Bizarre. But I guess a lot of libertarians like that Trump did a pardon on Ross Ulbright. I think that's how you pronounce his name. So that was the founder of Silk Road and the person who ran Silk Road. So that was a marketplace on the dark web for illegal goods. I remember it quite fondly. I'm sure there were a lot of people who, may have wanted to buy drugs like LSD or DMT or other things like that back in the 2012, 2013, 2014 days, and they bought Bitcoin early, and maybe they had some left over in some old wallet, or maybe they decided not to buy it after they bought this weird thing called Bitcoin. Those people could be rich at this point, but I bet you a lot of them have forgotten where their wallet is, their password, they don't know their seed phrase, so they're fucked. But this was back when Bitcoin was like, what, $100 US? Maybe anywhere from like $50 to $500 US, and people were buying like LSD and stuff with it. If you would have just not bought drugs like a degenerate, then you could have potentially had hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars at this point. But I guess these same people would have never bought that stuff, including the Bitcoin in the first place, if that wasn't the reason why they were doing it. But anyways, this guy, Ross Ulbright, libertarians love him. He was given 2 life sentences, I believe, and Thomas Massie, who is a very libertarian, also the only member of Congress, I believe, that doesn't support Israel, and he talked about how each member of Congress has their own AIPAC handler on the Tucker Carlson show, so that normalized that kind of rhetoric to a broader conservative audience. So I have respect for Thomas Massie, probably one of the only elected officials in the U.S. that I do have respect for. But apparently he sees this guy in high regard. I don't know what he did that was so great. It does seem like he was running an illegal, a very illegal marketplace. But hey, I can imagine that most people using it were using it to buy LSD and other stuff like that. So interesting to see him finally freed. I'm not sure what... I think Julian Assange already got freed, so that's another big one. I found this guy's account that has a lot of white-pilled Trump news. So this guy, Dominique Michael Trippi, I found him right before the show. I've seen other posts he have, and I don't think he's some idiot. I think he knows what's going on generally. He's generally on our side. And I haven't really looked at his profile here, but he's giving a lot of announcements that it's looking at Trump's executive orders and his new declarations from a positive perspective. So let's read a few of these over. Trump issues executive order ending all DEI and environmental justice programs in the federal departments within 60 days. So that's pretty epic, if true. As we talked about, Trump's executive order revoking birthright citizenship includes children born to legal immigrants on a work student visa. So like I said, it's not just illegals, but once again, the caveat is that's literally not going to go through. All federal employees in DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion positions to be placed on administrative leave effective immediately. So that's great. Government workers, the fucking blue-haired, black, fat lesbian in the HR department is getting the boot. Big if true. Big if true. So Trump issues executive order banning affirmative action, prohibiting federal contractors and public universities from practicing race-based discrimination like DEI. So that's great. Obviously, that makes it so that they can't, keep denying white people opportunities, under that context at least. However, there is always, in universities that don't discriminate in that way, they find other ways to do it. Like, for example, if you're applying to one of these schools that has already implemented this, then you could talk about in your application how you're the daughter of a you're the child of a Holocaust survivor, or, you know, you have intergenerational trauma embedded within you from the Holocaust. And I'm sure that that could have some credentials for getting you into university still. Trump issues one flag policy, banning pride flags and foreign flags from flying at U.S. government buildings here and abroad. So hopefully there'll be less trannies pulling out their tits on the White House lawn, like we saw, I think it was last year. Trump DOJ orders investigations of any state or local officials impeding deportations. Okay, well, it'll be interesting to see where that goes. I think I saw Tom Holman, the border czar. He's claiming we just deported 300 or 400 people today, which is, if you do the math, that's not very many people considering the total picture. But let's hope though we could boost those numbers up. I'm not too hopeful on that either. And of course, as I mentioned before, President Trump to impose 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico starting February 1st. So, I mean, that's probably not good for us here in Canada. Likewise, though, all this rhetoric, it's immediately getting to our politicians here in Canada. Like, as we mentioned earlier, Pierre Poilievre getting grilled about two genders. Reporters trying to make him take a side either way on it. Hopefully, more of the base stuff about immigration comes our way. So that's some Donald Trump white pill news, I guess. But then, like I said before, you can never tell with these people. This administration, the Trump administration, is really schizophrenic. You could hear the complete opposite thing, like one post below the other. So here it says, Trump is not only pro H-1B for engineers, but he also believes that we need to import more wine experts and highly skilled waiters. Day 2, by the way. Now, I don't know why you would need to outsource to find a quote-unquote highly skilled waiter.
Country. And HB1, I know the program very well. I use the program. Maitre d's, wine, experts, even waiters, high-quality waiters. You got to get the best people. Now, then you go into people like Larry, and he needs engineers, and Massa needs, and this gentleman needs engineers like nobody's ever needed engineers, right? So
this is day 2. It seems like a complete opposite thing of what we just read about the supposed executive orders on H-1Bs. See in the Twitter chat, Caesar says 300 illegals deported equals 1,000 legals imported. Yeah, I don't think the math is adding up here. Jen is saying deported to where? Fuck, I hope they're not coming this way. Hey, Trump, the administration is taking a very antagonistic view towards Canada. Who's to say that they're not going to send them this way? Or at least they won't care if they get the fuck out of there and come here. And I don't think we're far enough along in our journey, our leaders, to reject them at this point. We'll see, though. Maybe that'll provide nationalists in Canada with extra challenge. Like if they reopened Roxham Road or something. Or they started barreling through in some other entry from America to Canada. Another interesting thing is TikTok getting banned and then unbanned for, I guess, another 90 days. They're trying to get the Chinese company to bring it back over to get bought back by an American company, I guess. That's one of the pressures that is being put towards TikTok. I think at the end of the day, one of the biggest reasons for trying to get rid of TikTok is because there's basically anti-Semitism, according to them, on it. And one of the reasons you know that is because when TikTok got brought back on after like a day or two of being blocked in America. The Free Palestine hashtag and anything to do with Free Palestine has been shadow banned or declared as hate, and you're not able to post that apparently. So it seems like that was the caveat in which they said you could come back if you change that. Now I'm guessing it's still going to be taken out in 90 days unless there's some kind of coup there. I did a little normie research into it, so I watched John Oliver was it last week tonight for the first time in forever. And one of the reasons why I called this episode Blumpf, the return of Blumpf, is because this really shitty show last week tonight with John Oliver, who, hey, I used to watch him before I was red pilled because, you know, I felt like I was getting educated on something. His jokes and misdirections were kind of funny if you're not red pilled enough to be infuriated by knowing what he's actually doing with all these misdirections. But I believe it was Trump was taking someone to task for not using their real name. It might have been John Kerry, whose real last name is something Jewish, obviously. Well, not obviously, but he changed his name. His family changed his last name to Kerry in order to appear more Irish. That might have also been with Jon Stewart, too, because he also had this kind of spat with Jon Stewart, whereas his real name is John Leibowitz, and obviously he picked Stewart as a stage name in order to, I mean, you can imagine why he did that. He's telling the news in a comedic way, trying to convince you of things, and he probably doesn't want to go with the name Leibowitz, because that might incite some noticing. But anyways, John Oliver was firing back at him and found out that the Donald Trump name used to be Drumpf with an F because Donald Trump has a rich German ancestry. And how that's a bad thing, how that makes him like, oh, we owned you, Drumpf. And all the libs start spurging out saying Drumpf. That was ridiculous, obviously. It was classic, like owning the racists, blah 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 blah. But Drumpf actually disappointed a lot of us on the right. So they ironically took John Oliver's thing and took it from Drumpf to Blumpf. And then they made this meme of him where he looks fucked, his face is blown out. I'm not sure what you would even call that. You could see it above me there. But yeah, I just think Blumpf is really funny. It's like the classic schizo, meta-narrative, super ironic kind of meme. But yeah, Drumpf. Or Blumpf. Yeah, but anyways, John Oliver, he had a thing about TikTok, and it seemed like, yeah, they were scapegoating China to some extent. China is definitely trying to capture as much intelligence as they can on us, but who's to say that our own government isn't doing that, and what they would be doing with that? Now, when I say our own governments, that's what John Oliver was saying, but who owns all the biggest data collection and scraping and spyware? It's Israel. So I think a lot of that is going to a foreign country, but it's not China. Although I do think China is spying a lot. I'm just not sure they're necessarily doing that all with TikTok. I will leave this topic off with one last thing, and I think I saw a funny post about how Sam Hyde is the one guy who could bring like all the fractured right together. Like whatever they're arguing about, they all just, whenever Sam Hyde talks about something political, they just sit back and listen in reverence. And yeah, he did the Dear Elon video that went really viral and basically makes implicit ethno-nationalist arguments within it. Now he's done another one called Dear Vivek, and I haven't watched it yet, but there's one clip from it where he once again tries to reiterate what it means to be an American, or at least that you shouldn't have to argue for your own existence when it was something that was taken for granted, that should be taken for granted, and was taken for granted for centuries. It's within you. You know what it is. Don't argue with outsiders about it. So let's hear what he has to say about it.
A discussion about the definition of what an American is. I'm not interested in hearing somebody else's proposal for what an American is. Everybody knows what an American is. If there's a degree or two of variation between Americans, what an American is, it doesn't matter. Anytime you try to argue in good faith with somebody who wants to steal from you, you try to argue in good faith with somebody who is not going to Iron Man your arguments. You're going to give them every intellectual consideration possible. They're going to give you none. Anytime you even open your mouth to do anything that's not derision, you're losing. You're accepting their proposition that what you know, the same way you know that the sky is blue, what an American is, when you accept that your knowledge of that can be affected by somebody's paragraph, you're already losing. So these people, when they come to you, when you see them, the only thing you should have to say to them is, hey, faggot, that's it. That's all you need to say. You don't need to say anything else. Within your community, within your Discord, within your friend group, whatever, you can have whatever discussion you want. But if it's an outsider who's here telling us how to do business, that's not in the game plan. That's not part of the show. That's not happening. All right? So I'm not saying you need to not think about these things and not talk about them with your friends, whatever. But when an outsider comes here, gets in your face, and starts throwing definitions at you, and you got to Google shit, no, we're not doing that. You're getting called a slur. I don't know which one, whichever one I feel like saying at the moment. You're getting called a slur.
So yeah, that's pretty good. I want to see the rest of that one. I don't think there's really anything to say about it. It was pretty self-explanatory. He comes at it from an angle that a lot of people don't always think about too. You know, you get pissed off at hearing Vivek tell you that you're not an American, or that Americans suck because you don't work hard enough like the Jeets do. Invalidating that whole argument and just realizing that they're coming to you from an alien perspective that's trying to subvert you. You know, it's important to realize these things as they're happening. But anyways, giving a prime example of what is and what is not an American, or in this case that I'm about to show you, what is or is not a British person. Well, we have an update on the Southport stabbing. Of course, you guys remember this sweet, innocent child that stabbed to death 3 young girls doing a dance class, and then injured many others. You know, let me just show you the picture of what they showed all in the media. Like, we didn't get to see this picture until now. What is the one that they showed everybody up until now? Okay, so now the new picture has taken over all the Google search results. So this is the picture that they used to show around. I don't know why you would use that when the kid is 18 years old. I think we know why they would use that. But this is what his mugshot looked like, of course. And as we remember, there were riots all across Britain when this happened. And then they started jailing people for simply saying things like, you know, they've got to go back, these bloody, you know, whatever. They were angry, not even inciting violence, but deemed to be racial hatred. I think one of them even stated that they don't care if, like, a refugee hotel gets burnt down. That's all they said. They don't care if something like that happens. Fuck the bloody bastards. That guy got 2 years in jail. And there were many such cases like that whether it was anywhere from a few months to a few years in jail for social media posts, for simply just being at a protest. They also had revolving doors for the court where, say you posted something on July 15th, then 3 days later, by July 18th, you're in court. By July 19th, you're in jail already for 2 years. I don't know what kind of system works like that. Certainly doesn't work over here in Canada for the most part, unless you're denied bail, which is another thing. But yeah, pretty fucked up shit. People were even going to jail and stuck in there for spreading misinformation. Well, it turns out that some of that stuff might not have been as much of misinformation as they claimed. And even then, that misinformation is hardly the point of what is actually the huge outrage here, which is why the fuck is this guy, whatever the fuck this thing is, why is it even in Britain in the first place? I could look at that and I go, that's not a British person. That should be fucking obvious. But it turns out, even the people who falsely claimed that he was some kind of Islamic extremist, which the government and the police made, or the courts made a big deal to say that that was harmful misinformation, it seems that they've been withholding this information from us this whole time, and now he's been charged with possession of terrorist documents, military studies in the Jihad Against Tyrants, the Al-Qaeda training manual. You know, but you were spreading hate and misinformation and sent to jail, according to the Crown Protective Services, if you claimed that he was an Islamic extremist. Oh, and he was producing biological weapons. I guess ricin. I guess the only way that I know what ricin is from Breaking Bad, when Walter White was trying to poison people. But there you have it. Are they gonna free? Are they gonna pardon the people who are spending years in jail now for making posts on social media? I don't think so. That's why I think places like Britain are way further down the line, well, obviously, than, say, the States. Now, a group that's doing great things over in Britain, who's wrapped up in all of this, Mark Collette and his group Patriotic Alternative, they're being falsely targeted and smeared, this time by another group of reporters. So, Patriotic Alternative, they've already had about 2 or 3 documentaries already made about them, where people went undercover into their groups, journalists, and they gain access to membership by going through all the proper channels, and then they get all this secret footage, and they can never seem to get anything that sticks, and it just seems to kind of backfire on them. Like, they're incredibly futile at their attempts with this, and they've done it once again, this time with BBC. And just for an example of what that was like, last time around when they did this to Patriotic Alternative, they got a guy to join, and then he went around postering and leafleting with Sam Melia, who's like the co-founder, and Laura Towler, who's like one of the other co-founders, along with Mark Collette. And then Antifa, out of nowhere, was already stalking them and tracked them down and started just violently attacking them. And the guy started running away, the undercover journalist who was recording them with his GoPro or whatever, his hidden camera. And he starts getting attacked and stomped by Antifa, and he's like, stop, I'm a journalist, please help. And they just kept beating him or whatever. And then the Patriotic Alternative guys came and ran and scared, and they fought off these Antifa guys and saved this undercover journalist, despite he was there just to like try and ruin their lives, obviously. And he ran like a coward. He cried that he was a journalist, and they put this in the documentary as well, which, if you're trying to state that Patriotic Alternative are the evil people that need to be outlawed and they're violent, but then their opposition is the ones who are stalking them and attacking them, and you put this in the documentary as proof that Patriotic Alternative is bad, then I'd say you failed in your endeavor right there. So that was some other, like, I think BBC affiliated network, or I don't know which network that was. It's interesting because Mark Collette, he watches these documentaries where they always try to get him on stream, and he reacts to it, and he has really good insights on like the tactics that they use, the insider information of how this all happened, and general strategy on how to deal with these things in the future, right? And he rates people's performances, whether it's documentary hit pieces on him and his own group, or it's documentary hit pieces on, say, like the Groypers and Nick Fuentes in America First. He did a really good review on how everyone performed in that documentary and all the propaganda techniques that they used. You know, like, oh, we just got to dim the lights in this room just for the lighting, right? It's like, oh yeah, so you're gonna hide in the corner of my room and then film me in my room by myself in the dark, staring at a computer screen from like a weird far off low angle. Yeah, that seems like a normal thing to do, right? Put an evil echo on someone's voice during one of their demonstrations. They do all these kinds of little things, right? Little film techniques, the ominous music. There was one documentary where they make it seem like people, like they're reporters infiltrating this group, that no one was helping them. It was all a grassroots operation. They had to cut their own spy gear themselves and like sew it into their suits. And Mark Collette easily demonstrated how that was all complete bullshit. Like, they're clearly getting funding from like big money, and how they did not just, they staged a whole trying to put their equipment into their suit and tie it in and sew it in and cut it in. They staged all of that. They obviously didn't do that, and he explained why. So there's all these little things that they try to do. So there's now a new documentary about Patriotic Alternative, this time with the BBC. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't found a place where we could watch it, but Mark Collette is going to be doing a full review stream of it, I believe, on Friday. So I'm really interested in seeing that. And hey, it's good information that we could learn, because like I've said before, Britain is quite a bit farther along in how bad things have gotten, but also how much their nationalist groups have learned throughout all of that. So Britain is further down the pipeline than say Canada or Australia is. We're definitely getting there, but they're great people to learn from in this context. So let's check out this fucking article about them. So there's a little video here, a little snippet of how much they're trying to press the people that they secretly recorded. But just for a little context about it, I'll read some of this article, and then I'll get into that. So this article starts off, a far-right organization should be banned, and some members investigated by police, the BBC has been told, after we secretly filmed people in the group saying migrants should be shot. Former counter-extremism commissioner Dame Sarah Khan believes the UK government should urgently change the law to make groups like Patriotic Alternative illegal. So you could tell that the establishment is really, they really do fear Patriotic Alternative if they're going to these lengths and being this sneaky and putting this much money into trying to stop them and make them illegal, right? Barrister, not a British name, watched some of the footage and said, there's more than enough evidence for the police to investigate, and referred to the Crown Prosecution Services. An undercover BBC reporter spent a year investigating the far-right group, and its members were recorded using racial slurs. So, oh, the horror. People were saying slurs. I don't know if they know, but like a lot of people who aren't even in any far-right group or have far-right beliefs say slurs regularly. But these people are so out of touch that they don't realize that. A BBC journalist infiltrated the group in Wales using a fake identity, Dan Jones, someone who slept on a friend's sofa in Cardiff and did not have a full-time job. So I guess somebody who you don't know what they're doing in their private life, they haven't brought you in or shown you their family or friends. I think that could be a red flag for someone in a nationalist group. Not that you want to get too paranoid about this, because also paranoia about other people is definitely a thing that will fracture and rip apart nationalist groups. I think ultimately you have to trust that you're not doing things that are illegal, and that, or if they are illegal, they're justified, and that they're peaceful, of course. And if it were to be broadcast out to the world, you could defend it. Right. So it says, posing as a new recruit, the undercover reporter covertly filmed at patriotic alternative demonstrations, their summer camp, and secretive annual conference over the course of a year, and heard some members sharing extreme views. Wow. So then you go on to see down here what's said behind closed doors. So this is insane. The secret filming exposed how the more extreme views of some members came out, like when Aaron Watkins offered Dan some casual work. So this member of PA, he literally gives it, he hears that his fellow white brother doesn't have a job and needs work, so he's kind enough to give this guy some work. And in return, he secretly films him and prods him to give views that he could use against him to try and ruin his life with. Out of context comments, of course, right? So, goes on to say, Mr. Watkins is now a handyman after losing his tax job at HMRC after being outed for making racist comments online and being spotted at demonstrations. So this guy has lost his livelihood, pushed out of his employment, and they're wondering why he might be more radicalized. Meanwhile, he's trying to help out people who he sees as in need that are of his own kin. And this fucking absolute weasel secretly recording him with money given from the government through the BBC. It's absolutely incredible. And I believe this is now a BBC investigator, so it's like they're pulling the bait and switch. Now they have a different investigator coming to this guy's house to harass him. So yeah, this is Aaron Watkins. This is that guy. This is absolutely unbelievable.
I'm not on your property. Stay out of my way. Why do you think, sir? So why do you think the migrants should be rounded up and put in camps and shot if they don't?
Get out of the way.
I'm not on your property.
You're not getting a comment off me, because anything I say, you'll lie about, okay? So just stay on my prey. I'm leaving for work. Get out of the way.
Why do you think the migrants should be rounded up, put in camps and shot if they refuse to leave? Mr. Watkins, will you speak to us, sir? There we go. Mr. Watkins doesn't want to speak to us about comments he's made about migrants, putting them in camps and being shot if they don't go away.
We put them all in the camps until they agree to leave, and if they refuse, we shoot them. And that's the end of it. It's the only way they'll leave. It's the only way we can keep this country ours.
This is how I have to earn my living since I was bloody dogs me. What happened then?
I just emailed my boss. I was like, look, boss, this come out about me. You know, a lot of my comments were incitement to racial hatred and ethnic violence. I'm not admitting to that because it's all, you know, hate speech laws.
Yeah.
But all I said was what everyone else is thinking. So quite frankly, if they want to convict me for that, they can get themselves.
Did the police get involved or anything?
Oh yeah, an anti-terror at my door. We want to chat to you.
So they have to go so far out of their way to the point where they're following people to their homes and literally getting jobs with people outside of the patriotic alternative, like any of their activities in any official capacity, in order to try and get some kind of gotcha on them. And on top of that, use that as a justification that their whole group should be illegal. Like, if this is not the biggest stretch I've ever seen, then I don't know. I don't know what is. Also, like, technically things that he was saying, that this guy that is being secretly filmed was saying, is against their code of conduct. However, they're not going to be policing what people are doing, and nor why would they want to in their free time, in their own homes, on their own job sites, especially not speaking in capacity to the party. But this is the lengths they'll go to try and do some gotcha, and then ultimately try to make a group like Patriotic Alternative illegal, because it actually poses a threat to the establishment, because they are getting to the crux of the issue. Now, they invited Mark Collette to do an interview after they just tried to get his comment. They didn't even ask him for an interview, but he said, hey, I'm open to an interview. I'm a professional. I know your tricks. Why don't you come invite me up? And apparently he did about 70 minutes of an interview, and they used about 30 seconds, but luckily he recorded his own version of it. Now, I haven't listened to it. I'll just play like maybe a minute
As
of
you
it.
will already know by now, the BBC is about to screen yet another documentary attempting to expose Patriotic Alternative and put pressure on anti-immigrant protesters. As such, last week, the BBC invited me to their studios in Manchester for an interview. I of course agreed, and I recorded the whole thing. I not only answered the questions put to me, but also let the interviewer know exactly what I thought of the BBC and the documentary itself, which isn't a balanced piece, but a blatant attempt to smear those featured. However, this isn't a typical BBC documentary that simply exists to scare the public into keeping their mouths shut on important issues such as mass immigration, multiculturalism, and the grooming gangs. In letters received by myself and Patriotic Alternative, the BBC make it clear that our organisation operates lawfully within the boundaries of current legislation. However, in an insidious twist, the BBC is using this documentary to attempt to pressure the government into changing the law and effectively making it illegal to openly advocate for the rights and well-being of white Britons.
And that is ultimately what they're trying to make illegal, right? Whether it's Patriotic Alternative or another group, it's opposing white genocide. They want to make that illegal. They want to make your existence untenable, illegal. So I'm interested in watching his stream exposing this documentary. I think it's on Friday. And there's one other person they caught on secret recording that I thought was pretty funny in this documentary, and it's Blair Cottrell. So he came and visited from Australia, and I heard him talking about it in Twitter space with Ferryman last week, I believe. And they secretly recorded him saying, an old lady was stabbed to death by a gang of African kids. When you look at the way things happen in Africa, the only language they understand is violence. He told this to a group of people at a dinner. And Blair was laughing about how, like, they act like this is some kind of big gotcha. Like, literally, Blair Cottrell, the guy known for being the big, scary, racist man, nationalist, they caught him saying things that they think are racist. And that's, like, some kind of gotcha own. And completely ridiculous, because it would be an own if they caught him saying something like, oh, I love black people, or, you know, legal immigration is actually, you know, kind of based, or something like, oh, we just have to vote for this party because, you know, I know it's not the best, but, you know, we'll take what we can get. Now, that would be embarrassing if he was found cucking or, you know, any of these things. But catching the big, scary, racist man being a racist, that's just a total W for Blair. And, you know, they didn't catch him saying anything crazy, like he's going to commit violence or advocates violence or anything. So they really failed on all fronts here. And we'll get to one more thing that Blair Cottrell did in a second, and then we could end this stream off. But before I get there, I just want to highlight here how you don't hate the BBC enough, you don't hate journalists enough. They're actually mad that these people who they're secretly recording in private are saying supposedly worse things than the people who were already arbitrarily arrested for like 2 years for just saying supposedly hateful things on Twitter about the Southport killer who stabbed little girls. They're mad that those guys, no, they're happy that those people got 2 years in jail, but they're angry that these people that they secretly recorded are also not getting even more time. They say, after the Southport riots, we saw prosecutions of individuals who'd posted even just 1 or 2 messages on their social media platforms. And those messages were arguably not as inflammatory as the ones you have shown me. So they're seething that these people aren't in jail, that they secretly recorded. But I'm excited to see this exposing of this documentary when he does do that stream, I believe on Friday. And it'll be good to learn from a guy who's very experienced about how these people operate, that being infiltrators, how infiltrators and undercover journalists operate, how best to deal with them, how best to have like a code of conduct and like balance, outside the club, inside the club, all these different things. Something that any leader of any group should be privy to. It's kind of like the important content that you should be digesting. So I'm looking forward to that. So there's one more thing I want to get into, and that is Blair Cottrell, who we just mentioned there, doing some kind of demonstration for Australia Day. Now, Australia Day, I think, is coming up next week, but it's very interesting that their country right now is having an arc of anti-patriotism against their nation's day. It's kind of like what we experienced here in Canada back in Canada Day 2021, when this complete hoax of residential schools, children being buried in unmarked graves by the hundreds or thousands, starting with Kamloops, BC. That was a total hoax, yet the media just ran with it. They had ground-penetrating radar that said that there was all these remains of children in the ground before they even looked into it and investigated and excavated it. And obviously, not one bone was found. I think they dug up like 14 sites at first before they didn't find anything, and then they just claimed that the rest of them were too sacred, and they just wanted to avoid further embarrassment. And instead of admitting anything, they just fired anybody who tried to say otherwise from their professional job. And then now the NDP here, our very left-wing political party here, is introducing a bill to make it illegal. So residential school denialism could be illegal. Pretty ridiculous. After it's already been debunked, right? And not to mention the media lapping it up. The Fifth Estate would... I looked up their residential school, Fifth Estate, investigative pieces, and they did 5 or 6 of them on them, and they just let whatever Indian make up whatever story that they wanted, and they would... Gillian Findley, the host, would take it as fact. I saw one clip. Here, maybe I could find it, because this is crazy. Hold on. You have to hear what they were allowed to being said, what they allowed to be said on these investigative pieces without any pushback. Oh yeah, this is the right one. So this was around around the time the same incidences that got our Canada Day canceled 4 years ago.
That's where he laid me. I was 6 years old.
Sexual abuse was common at the school.
It happened lots. Brothers, priests. And I don't know who the other guys were. But it always happened downstairs.
Common, too, was death. Residential school children died at much higher rates of influenza and tuberculosis. And
so now you know what they were actually dying of, if they were dying at all. So they weren't being murdered en masse. But there's one particular part that I wanted to show you. Hold on. The same lady there claims she saw a bunch of boys hanging from trees, and then they just disappeared. So they were literally being hung by trees, from trees, and then she never saw them again. And then Gillian Finley just goes, wow. Okay, I'm having trouble finding it. Either way, you guys believe me. But yeah, see, we've gone through that recently, and I guess they're going through it. I don't know if anything specific happened, but they're trying to cancel Australia Day. And now I guess the BB... Oh, fuck. Okay, so this post that I was looking at and watching that Blair had has been deleted. Hopefully he didn't get banned. But yeah, the point of it was that their version of the BBC or whatever, they're trying to convince businesses that they could refuse service to people who are wearing Australia Day colors and outfits, and they provided like a legal framework for businesses who want to discriminate against people who come into their businesses wearing any sort of pro-Australia garb. Now, even they didn't even go that far in Canada. Like, it's hard to believe that a government-funded media outlet would try to instruct people on how they could refuse service to people who are being patriotic on the day that they're supposed to be patriotic. It's absolutely incredible. So, likewise, Blair and his lads over there are doing a demonstration in front of one of the landmark buildings in order to advocate for their own people. And these are the kinds of things that we have to do. We have to, obviously reestablish our heritage and not let them take it away and chip it away as they're trying to do there. Things like venerating the red ensign here in Canada, Canada's old flag, one that actually had meaning, that had the four countries that were instrumental in creating Canada on the flag, that had the nations of peoples who actually founded the country on the flag, as opposed to the maple leaf, which, what does that even really mean? That obviously has way less inherent value in it than having the countries, the nations of people that founded the country on it. And thus it allows Canada to become more deracinated, more for the taking. You know, you could obfuscate who the founders of Canada were, what it means to be Canadian, the biospiritual force that created it. You could take all that away as you chip away at a people's history. So things like Operation Ensign, another good initiative I've seen that I think Ferry started it, and now other people are helping it along, where people give submissions of them rocking the red ensign and venerating our heritage and history. So here's just a little video about how the flag changed over the years and how we need to bring it back. So yeah, pretty epic. And as you can see here, you could send your own submissions of yourself flying the red ensign. I've been told it's both red ensign and red ensign are acceptable. If anyone has a definitive answer on that, then please let me know. I've heard red ensign more. I don't want to sound like an idiot and keep saying the wrong thing, but I assume both are fine. But yeah, try and figure out interesting ways to fly it that capture the imagination, that will do our country's heritage justice. And you could send that to operationensign@gmail.com. I got a super chat on Rumble from Chucky's Extremist Circus. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And he says, and the indigenous were allowed to leave these so-called residential schools at the end of the day. Imagine that. Yeah, like, it's funny that a lot of the people, a lot of the elders in the indigenous community, several of the most successful ones, say that they owed their success to these residential schools. Because you know that they weren't teaching their children properly on the res. And in fact, the problem was that a lot of them were dying. They were suffering a lot of abuse, neglect, and all these things, and certainly not getting an education on the res. So the altruistic white man says, we got to do something about this, and I would say it was a huge favor to them on a whole. Obviously, bad things happen, but bad things happen all across the board. You can't prevent bad things from happening and everything to always be roses, but I'd say by and large, residential schools were a good thing for them, and this is the thanks that our country gets, that our people get. They should have stayed separated in the first place. No good deed goes unthanked. I'd like to anybody who's like hate watching this to think, do you really think that they would have been better off if they didn't go to these residential schools where they were taught like how to live in a society properly? Like, be honest with yourself. They're left to their own devices now to this day, even when they've integrated and they've been given all these benefits, and they're still complaining. Say, sometimes the best thing you could do for someone is to let them figure it out themselves. Somebody says, my wife pronounces it ensign. Literally just writes ensign as if that helps. Thank you. Ensing. Yeah. You could say that the new Maple Leaf flag is the red ensign, because that is the demographic that apparently is colonizing Canada now. That is the new nation that has become, apparently. Well, there you have it. Supporting your own heritage, your own people, all these different initiatives, whether it's Operation Ensign or, just dedicating portions of your life or a percentage of your time to whatever group that you think is going to make a difference. I would say that is doing your part, not just trusting the plan and let Daddy Trump doing everything, or letting Dark Pee-Pee take over and he's going to eat an apple and everything's going to be all right. No. I'm not saying donate to me, but I'm not saying donate to me. You can if you want, but give a percentage of your effort, your time, your money to something that you think is going to be successful, to people that you think are on the right track, or become that change that you want to see. Become one of those people. And that's what I'll leave you guys off with. And another example of that, here's a video that Johnny Rodden made that I'll leave you off with. That kind of shows, once again, this is what's going on out there, and something that you could show a normie, and they would be a bit more on your side in the end. You know, push the needle just that bit more. So, thank you guys all for coming out tonight. Hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you learned a few things. Good to see you guys all out here on Rumble, Entropy, YouTube, Twitter. Seems like all the streams held up tonight. And I'll play you guys off on this video from Johnny Rodden. Okay, I'll see you guys next week. Have a good night, everyone.
There's something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop. Children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. There's battle lines being drawn. Nobody's right if everybody's wrong. Young people speaking their minds are getting so much resistance from behind. Time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. What a field day for the heat. 1,000 people in the street, singing songs and carrying signs. Mostly say hooray for our side. It's time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Strikes deep into your life, it will creep. It starts when you're always afraid. Step out of line, the man come and take you away. We better stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going. We better stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going. We better stop.